Tune into The Final Take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Morning, wherever you are watching. This is The Final Take with me, Seni MK Marina. Good morning, and wherever you are watching, this is The Final Take with me, Seni MK Marina. A quick look at what's coming up today. The Tangara bid for the Commonwealth top job. What are his merits and why are right groups opposing his quest to head the bloc, which has never been led by a Gambian? Also on the program, land issues return to the spotlight as 3 advocates launch a petition urging the National Assembly to prop state land allocations. We will discuss this. Lamin Koma, former Director of Lands Department, examine the implications and processes of state land allocation. That's The Final Take, exploring a week of news and current affairs in the Gambia. Many thanks for joining us. Let's start off with Mr. Tangara's bid for the Commonwealth as the Gambian seasoned diplomat and Minister of Foreign Affairs make a major move for the Commonwealth leadership. Tangara brings a wealth of experience to the portfolio, which has never been held by a Gambian. But some right activists oppose this idea, citing his link to the former regime of Yahya Jammeh. If his bid goes through, Honorable Tangara will be the first Gambian to lead the Commonwealth, which the country exited during Jammeh's 2-decade authoritarian rule. Let's bring in Madi Jobate, a prominent Gambian activist, to discuss about this Mr. Tangara's bid. Madi, welcome to The Final Take with me, Seni Marina. Now a more open view. How much of an impact do you think he will make as the first Gambian to hold this portfolio?
I'm not sure. Certainly, it will be historic to have the first Gambian to be the Commonwealth Secretary General, and one can even say the second African to be the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Now, what impact he would make in terms of what policy options he would bring to the Commonwealth and how that would affect the lives of Commonwealth citizens in general, but in particular in Africa and even in the Gambia, that is yet to be seen. But if you go by the track record of Tangara, I do not see him making any significant impact because he has been in the government for a long time, and particularly heading the foreign ministry both during the dictatorship and in the present dispensation. And his impact in terms of our foreign service is marginal, if anything, really. So I do not have any expectations, indeed.
Mr. Jobate, you are currently leading, Gambian activists, home and abroad, challenging, and petitioning the Commonwealth chair, which is the Rwanda's president, Paul Kagame, about the candidature of Mamadou Tangara. Why are you saying no to Mamadou Tangara's candidature to lead the Commonwealth of Nations?
Yeah, precisely because Tangara is part of a group of people who unleashed and maintained dictatorship in our country in total violation of our constitution and of the rights and dignity of Gambians. Dictatorship is unconstitutional. Dictatorship is a crime. And the evidence of that in the Gambia is well known, not just from the reports of the TRRC or the Jammeh Commission, but we've lived it. And so those who presided over this crime were individuals who served as cabinet ministers, as vice presidents, as president of the Gambia between 1994 and 2017, January, but also as parliamentarians representing the APRC Who are the people? Who are the lawmakers? They are the decision makers. They are the policy makers. They are the people who, are the assistants, advisors to the president. They are the people responsible to uphold the constitution as part of their oath of office, to enforce the law, to protect human rights, and above all, to check the president to make sure he is acting according to the rule of law. In all these levels, they have failed to do so, thereby aiding and abetting dictatorship to take place. But not just that, to defend that dictatorship, as in Tangara's own case, as the foreign minister, he represented that dictatorship at international forums across the world, defending it, justifying it, when he knew very well that there was abuse of power in the Gambia, there was disregard of the rule of law in the Gambia, and there was blatant, human rights violations in the Gambia, which has been certified by the United Nations itself. In 2014, the United Nations sent 2 special rapporteurs to the Gambia, one to look at torture and the other to look at enforced disappearances and summary executions. And their reports were, presented before the UN Security Council. Not to mention many reports that have been generated by international organizations, including the Commonwealth, the African Union, the Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the list goes on, to confirm that we indeed had dictatorship, and that dictatorship does not run itself. It was not run by foreigners. It was not run by some spirits. It was run by human beings who had positions, all right, in the government, and we are very clear as to what are the terms of reference of a president, of a vice president, of a minister, of a cabinet. And so if Tangara and all the people who had served under Jammeh's government had fulfilled their functions as per the law, they would not have had dictatorship. But they abandoned their responsibilities, their obligations. So when we got to this point, I think it is just proper that we hold Tangara and all of them to account.
Okay. Mr. Mahdi, Tangara supporters will argue or disagree with you that Tangara is involved in those right violations. Many of them think that Tangara is clean because he has not been mentioned by either the Janneh Commission or the TRRC as to his involvement in these right violations. What do you think about him? Is he directly involved in this violation that will make him unfit for this Commonwealth position?
Yeah, in my view, he is directly involved as a decision maker, as someone, as a cabinet minister. Now, the TRRC, of course, Tangara was mentioned by the former president of the Gambia Press Union, the Tafa Sose, that Tangara came to Mali at the behest of the Gambia government to get her extradited when she was charged with treason in this country. If Tangara had succeeded, I have no doubts that Tafa would have been subjected to rape and executed. All right. The argument his supporters make about his involvement. Yes, Tangara did not shoot. We did not see him shoot anyone or torture anyone physically, personally. And we know the junglers were there and other security forces that did it. But a dictatorship is run based on various actors, and so of course, the security forces like the junglers had their function, and which they did. But others also that are civilian, like Tangara, they also had another function, which in fact is a more significant function because that's where actual power is. The junglers are just officers who are out there who execute instructions. But the real people who make the policies, who determine the nature of that government, who run the government, are the people who sit in cabinet, the president and with all of them. So for me, therefore, they are directly involved in the human rights violations that existed. Now, the TRRC, he wasn't called by the TRRC, and the TRRC list is not exhaustive. So many people, in my view, should have been called by the TRRC. Yes, so they did not call everyone. Is it because of time? Is it because of resources? Is it an oversight? Is it because of another factor? I don't know. But with all the good work that the TRRC did, and I commend them for the amazing work that they did, I still feel that the list wasn't so exhaustive. But not being called by TRRC is not a vindication. It's not an exoneration that you are not culpable, that you have no responsibility in the dictatorship. So that argument, I think it falls flat. I mean, Tangara is responsible and he needs to be held to account.
Mr. Madi, your petition is currently going on. Can you tell us an update about this petition? Has the petition reached the Commonwealth chair, which is Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and what is the way forward?
Well, we have submitted it to the Commonwealth Secretariat, and which includes the chair, and the Secretary General. We've opened an online petition. As of today, we are 100, over 700, close to 800 signatories, looking for 1,000 over these past 72 hours, or so. And so it is ongoing. The whole point is we are raising a matter of accountability. We are submitted to the Commonwealth, and we hope the Commonwealth Secretariat and its chair will make it available to all Commonwealth states so that when they come to vote, they understand who are they voting for. So that is up to them, and we have submitted to them, and we are waiting to see. At a certain point, we will get the petition again, the signed petition with the signatories, and also submit to them to indicate the number of people who have signed. And when we look at it, the signatures so far, it's not just Gambians, it's Commonwealth citizens in general. So we have signatures as far as the United States and the UK and Kenya and South Africa and the Gambia and Ghana. So we think that is a representative voice of citizens of the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth leaders should listen to the voices of Commonwealth citizens if they really care about democracy and good governance.
Yeah, Mr. Jobate, some also claim that you might have a personal vendetta against Tangara, and thus, your petition to challenge his candidature. Can you clarify this? Do you have any personal vendetta against the person of Honorable Tangara?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't have any personal issue with Tangara. I don't think I've even ever had direct exchange with Tangara. But this is a matter that MK, I have dedicated myself to make sure there's accountability in this society, and particularly for the dictatorship that took place. So people may just have seen me talk about Tangara today, but let them check my records. I led a petition in 2020 against the candidature of Mama Fatima Singate, who was a justice minister under Jammeh, when she applied to be a special rapporteur in the UN. Yes, I have spoken against Barrow employing, Jammeh enablers, that is cabinet ministers particularly, and parliamentarians. So I remember the deployment of former Speaker Abdullahi Bojang as ambassador to South Africa. I said not in my name. I have spoken against all ministers that have, been appointed, and it's the same reason. It just happens that at this point, Tangara is seeking this Commonwealth, which is public knowledge. Now, one can say, but others also got international appointments. Yes, some they had international appointments that you just come to know they have the appointment. It's different from a process like Tangara. So you couldn't actually do anything about it. They're already there. We have a lot of Jammeh enablers in ECOWAS, in AU, in UN, and other places, which I just came to know. Some are put into public offices like, Nene Magdal is currently head of the Information Commission. Yes, that doesn't mean one is against Tangara or one is covering for those people. No. I wish if I'm holding here, MK, and you should hold there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I'm holding here, you are not holding there, but you are complaining why I'm holding here. I find it problematic because this is Gambia. It's a collective responsibility. If you all stand for never again, if we all believe in justice and accountability, if you all accept that there was dictatorship in this country, which was not run by only Yahya Jammeh and the junglers, but there are many other key enablers who must be held to account, if you believe in that. So one should not raise the question why Tangara and not the others. Rather, one should say, if Madi is holding here, if I cannot join in here, I'm going to hold this one there. But
meaning Madi Jobate cannot hold everyone accountable in this case.
One can say that. One can say that too. But I don't care, because the people who are opposing this effort are only two kinds of people: the ignorant and the dishonest. And surely, I don't care about those people because they don't want justice, they don't want accountability, they don't see the dignity, the right of Gambians. They don't care about the very destiny, the life of this country. Because if you do, regardless, you will stand for accountability. So that if you are not joining me in this, go and hold some others to account. But you are not joining me, you are not holding anyone to account, but you are complaining why we are holding somebody to account. I mean, what kind of people person are you?
Mr. Jobate, many thanks for that. Moving on, I will call you Mr. Petitioner because this is your second petition in a month.
Yeah, in a month. But many petitions are coming.
Can I call you Mr. Petitioner then? Okay. Now that you and three of your colleagues, human rights activists, you have sent a petition to the National Assembly a few days ago to prop the state land allocation. Take us through this development. Why are you calling for a parliamentary inquiry into state land allocations in the country?
Yeah, because of the blatant corruption and abuse of power that has been exercised here. And again, as I said, I stand for accountability in this society, to bring accountability, transparency, and accountability. Now, this land issue this is not the first time I'm engaging on it. Sometime 2022, information emerged from the Ministry of Lands, where they distributed state lands to ministers, former ministers, vice presidents, and their families and friends. I spoke out against it and demanded that the Minister of Lands at the time, Mr. Adrame, should be dismissed and secondly prosecuted because the allocations were unlawful, and I accused him of corruption. He threatened to take me to court.
Yes.
These lawyers wrote to me. I said, let us meet in court. Until now, I'm waiting for them to meet in court. And now that, the Minister for Environment is also threatening your reporter and yourself to court, I want to ask Rahim Manjang, John Manjang, to add me also together with Alkamba Times and Keba Ansumani and take us to court because he has to be held to account. So this is the problem in the Gambia, how public officials, either corruption, negligence, incompetence, are abusing their powers, are mismanaging our public resources, and they got to be held to account. So this petition, later what we saw is how the leader of the opposition also came out to say land is being allocated to the president.
Yes.
A property which is allocated for the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice, yeah, right.
Yes. So even if not allocated to the Chief Justice, the president, by his own declaration for the 2021 elections, he does not qualify according to the State Lands Act to be allocated a state land anymore. So clearly one can see another act of corruption and abuse of office, even though they came back also to say the opposition leaders' own family were also allocated land, but which I spoke against as well, as a matter of influence. All right. So for me, we have got to a point, and given the way and manner land is being grabbed in this country indiscriminately, encroached upon, like our forest parks, our sanctuaries, and so on. The gazetted forest. That is why I'm interested in the Ministry of Environment. All right. It is high time we bring transparency and accountability in the land sector, and so we have decided, therefore, to submit a very comprehensive petition to the National Assembly to open a public inquiry so that we understand what is happening in the land sector. All right. And we have submitted it, and we are waiting to hear from them. But this journey is going to continue. Yeah,
absolutely. Mr. Mahdi, how would a parliamentary inquiry impact and address current challenges in state land allocation? Because we have seen that, government is giving land left and right to top government officials and their families. How will this inquiry, address that current challenges in land allocation?
Yeah, precisely that exposes the unfairness and the corruption that we are talking about. Why would you give state lands to ministers because they are just ministers, or parliamentarians because they are just parliamentarians, all right, and other top officials just because they are top officials? Meantime, you have state institutions renting in private property. The Minister of Interior itself, as the Home Affairs Minister, is rented in this country. And when you look at it, MK, if I'm a parliamentarian or a minister, a top government official, you give me state land, what does that mean? It is to enrich me free of charge, because I can go and develop that land and now rent it to a public institution for millions of dollars. So meaning what the government is doing is illegally enriching public officials by giving them these state lands. So this inquiry, if the parliament adopts our petition, the impact will be huge, because if you look at our prayers, we are not just asking for transparency, who is allocated land. We are looking at the process. We are looking at the particular land that has been given, property that has been given, the state of that property, is it developed or undeveloped, the location of that property, and so on. So that conversation is useful for our citizens to get to understand how public resources are being managed or mismanaged in this country. And so, it raises the level of accountability, and I hope our citizens will take up that more seriously and to another level, to hold those people responsible to account. We hope the National Assembly itself will, make findings and make recommendations for accountability, that those who are given land illegally and illegitimately are asked to return the land. But not just that, those officials who gave them the land are officials who should be dismissed and prosecuted for corruption and abuse of office and abuse of the rule of law. So it is huge.
Mr. Mahdi, you submitted this parliamentary petition, but when you look at the parliament itself, these are people who were allocated land. You don't see a conflict of interest in this inquiry? Because how can the police be the police themselves? So that's a concern. Are you not concerned about that too?
No, I'm not concerned about that. The onus is on their heads. We have a democratic system which has established institutions by law and gave them mandate. And the National Assembly is the rightful mandate for this petition, and they have the petition. Now, National Assembly members call themselves honorable members.
Yes.
So with this petition now, knowing that they themselves have benefited from land, let us see how honorable are they, that they would be honest and genuine to look at this inquiry. Because if they feel the land given to them is given to them legally, legitimately, well, so be it. But also, if it is not given to them in the right way, let them also be honorable to say we were given land illegally. So today, when this petition is, if they accept it, the outcome of it will determine whether it is right for us to call National Assembly members honorable or dishonorable. So I'm waiting for the outcome. So the responsibility is with them.
Mr. Mahdi, before I let you go, I know you have several meetings with international groups today, and then I'm grateful that you find time to join my conversation as usual. We know land issues are a major obstacle to communal unity and peace in the Gambia. How would an effective land policy help in tackling land allocation problem? Because communities are also fighting. Because we have seen that people are buying land, selling it, in a very dangerous way. So how would an effective land policy help in tackling those land allocation problems from your perspective?
So we hope this petition would trigger a proper legal review of the land sector, develop or recommend the development of a proper policy and structure for land management, land use in this country. In 2013, ECOWAS engaged me to do a risk assessment for the Gambia.
Yeah.
Even though that was dictatorship, violation of civil and political rights, my conclusion was the flashpoint for conflict in the Gambia will be over land. Indiscriminate land grabbing in this country at the time perpetuated by the dictator himself, Jammeh. But since then, we have seen, how the land sector has been, ravaged. You have housing, estates, private housing estates, developers going to communities, taking their lands to build housing estates from families, We have seen now the coming of a commercial agriculturalist, particularly from outside, going to villages and communities, taking good pieces of land for plantations. All right. We have seen the state itself, the way and manner they take land in the name of tourism and so on, giving land to foreign companies and private businesses, local and international, in the name of tourism development, in the name of investment. Totally unfair. You look at the GT board in the Tourism Act, how they will tell you 800 meters from the shoreline, there should be, it is tourism development. And when, families for centuries live on that on that coastline, you cannot come and take their land in the name of tourism development or so, to give that land free of charge to some businessman who's going to make profit and then cause poverty for the families who are from those villages along the coastline. So our land system in this country is unjust, is discriminatory, unfair, and there needs to be justice and fairness for it. All right.
Do you think that okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, a land commission was set up during Jammeh's time, dissolved. When this new regime came, they said they have constituted a land commission. You don't hear them, you don't see them. There's no land policy. But what we know is land, is the most permanent resource asset of for any individual, society, family, or nation. And this country, 11,000 square kilometers, belongs to Gambians. And we're going to have a situation in which some Gambians have access to prime land, to fertile land, and then our people who own that land are pushed out, in the interest of a public officer or some private business or so. So the land system in this country is unjust, unfair, and it needs to be challenged.
So Madi, there should be a total do you believe that there should be a total overhaul of land allocation in the country? Because you highlighted a very important issue. When ECOWAS hire you to do a report on a land issue, you said land is going to be the flashpoint for conflict. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there needs to be a total overhaul. I mean, MK, what we have in place, the Lands Act, for me, is unjust, is wrong. It needs to change. All right. Land hasn't been addressed adequately in our constitution. All right. The structures they establish, whether the Ministry of Lands, the way they operate, is unlawful, is corrupt, and it needs to be corrected. So the way and manner land is here, it is just a survival of the fittest. So those in power have more access to land, and that is what we see. So that has to be corrected. All right. So there are individuals in this country having access to land, having ownership of land for nothing because of their access to public office, to public officials, their power and influence. And that cannot be. Which has made them so rich. And those people's lands who have been taken have been dumped into poverty and deprivation. No, that cannot be. So there has to be justice. And so, I mean, we have to deal with this. Oh. Yeah.
Many thanks. That's Madi Jobate, prominent right activist, speaking to the opposition of Tangara's Commonwealth leadership bid and also petition on state land allocation. Madi Jobate, many thanks for joining us on the final take with me, Seni Marena.
Anytime. I'm available. Thank you so much. Yeah, keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Moving up, this is the final take with me, Seni Marena. Exploring a week of news and current affairs. Let's stay with land issues which continue to influence public discourse in the Gambia. Former Director of Lands Department, Lamino Lankoma, joined us live from Banjul to examine the implication and processes of the state land allocations. Many thanks, Mr. Koma, and take us through the specific rules governing land allocation, state land allocation in the Gambia. Mr. Lamin Koma, are you there? Our next guest, Lamin Koma, former Director of Lands Department, is joining us live from Banjul. He is trying to connect, and very soon he will be with us.
Tune into the final take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Welcome back wherever you are watching. This is the final take with me, Seni MK Mariner, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. We will be joined live from Banjul by Mr. Lankoma, who is the former director of Lands Department, to talk to us about the processes and implications of state land allocation in the country. Mr. Koma, if we are there, can you hear me? I understand there is technical issues from Banjul because of lack of electricity, with NAWEC owing the Senegalese electricity company 1 billion safer for their non-payment. This is affecting businesses, and people's livelihoods in the country. We hope that NAWEC will put their act together to provide Gambians with an uninterrupted electricity supply, a promise made by the coalition government of Adama Barrow since 2017 when he took power. And Gambians are still grappling with lack of electricity. And this have economic consequences for a country emerging from 22 years of authoritarian rule. We will still try to connect with our guest, Lamin Koma, who is still facing some challenges of joining the show. Lamin, if we are there, can you hear us? Mr. Koma, are you there? We will take a quick break, and when we are back, we will try to connect with Mr. Lamin Koma, the former lands director, to talk to us about, the processes and implications of state land allocation. Until then, I see you after this short break.
Tune into the final take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Welcome back. We're still trying to connect with Mr. Koma, but then we will also have Mr. Kemo Fati, who is supporting Mr. Tangara's bid for Commonwealth. He'll also tell us why Mr. Tangara is suitable for this high-level Commonwealth job. We will have him on the show very soon. But then we will try to connect with Lamin Koma again and see if he will join us live from Banjul. Mr. Koma, are you there? Seems there is still trouble, but we will continue this conversation. As I said, the major news happening right now in Banjul is the lack of electricity. This crisis has been unfolding for many years. And we all remember when the coalition government took power in 2017, they promised that Gambians will enjoy uninterrupted electricity supply. 8 years down the line, Gambians are suffering, because there is no electricity. This is affecting businesses, affecting, the country's growth and development. We'll ask the question, when will Gambia have an uninterrupted electricity supply? Mr. Koma, are you there? Can you hear me, sir? Our guest, Mr. Koma, is still trying to connect to join the show. But then, if he's not available, we'll jump to Kemo Fati. Kemo, are you there?
I see you. Yes, I am right here.
Well, Kemo, you are among few people supporting Dr. Tangara's bid to, to head the Commonwealth of Nations. Tell us, why do you think Tangara is the perfect candidate for this top-level job at the Commonwealth?
Well, thank you so much, CEO. But I think, first of all, we need to understand the current architecture of global politics. You definitely will understand that international politics right now is a very, very intensive, and competitive enterprise. And as a result, every country want to see themselves, not only as a member, but of course, gaining a position. And this is why you're seeing a very strong competition between, developing nations and global superpowers. Today the reason why China is rising very, very well as a peer competitor to the United States is because they don't only want to see themselves as a member, but they want to take a position at global stage. So Tangara being a foreign minister, of the Gambia for almost 4 years now, without any objection, from any citizen of our country, for me, automatically qualifies him, to be the next Secretary General of the Commonwealth.
Mr. Fati, right activists has already petitioned the Commonwealth chairman, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, because of the right violations and because he served under a very brutal dictatorship, a dictatorship that has cost Gambians their life, and Commonwealth is a group of people that support democratic governance, human rights protection, and rule of law. And still, you think Tangara, someone who served under Jammeh, is still capable of serving a Commonwealth of Nations, a population of over 3 million people? 300 million people?
I think this is where we are getting it wrong. I think many Gambians don't really understand an individual, position. You understand, versus their responsibility as a government official. You understand? Tangara was a foreign affairs minister on the Gambia, but prior to that, we saw the position that he was holding. He served as the Minister of Higher Education. Tangara also served as Minister of Fisheries, Water and National Assembly Matters. He was also one time, lecturer and the president of the UTG Governing Council, and we see the tremendous work that he has done. So his position as a minister of foreign affairs under a dictator, without being, culpable for any offenses, by the laws of our country, cannot be a justification that he is not qualified for the position that he is holding for. And in fact, one thing we need to understand, I think Gambia has made an unprecedented, mark at global stage. We've made one of the most, I wouldn't say successful, but of course, one of the most peaceful, transitional justice program. You were among those people who took part in that process. You understand? We saw South Africa's Truth Commission. We saw Angola, and of course our neighboring, Sierra Leone. They were very chaotic. But Gambia's transitional justice program was very, very peaceful. And then, these commissioners reach out to everyone within the society. They encourage Gambians to come and testify, report any cases of human rights violations. Tangara's name was mentioned. I heard, in their stories, but there was no justification that Tangara should be called, to TRRC and present this case. You understand? And there was no remark of any involvement or human rights violation that he had. The TRRC has more than 2,000 witnesses.
Yeah. But when you look at the petitioners, those petitioning against his candidature, they were saying that Tangara, was key member of Jammeh's dictatorship. He was at the international front selling the Jammeh's government policies internationally, and therefore, heading a Commonwealth, comes with also a risk, comes with certain responsibility. So, do you agree that Tangara is unfit for this role, looking at his past contribution to dictatorship? Because when you look at it, they said he was among people who traveled under Jammeh's guidance to Mali to seek the extradition of Ndeye Tafa Sosé, the former president of the Gambia Press Union, who was fighting Jammeh's dictatorship away from home during the time of the struggle.
Mr. Marina, still now I disagree. One thing we need to understand is that as a foreign affairs minister, one of your key responsibilities is to represent the good image of your country. If you cannot do that, even in your own government, if anybody can do that for you, the person should be sacked. You understand? Tangara's position.
But even if it is not, if it is against international standard, like the right violation, you can still go ahead and represent the country. Kemo, are you there? It seems we are trying to lose Kemo, but Lamin Koma, the former lands director, is also here with us. If Kemo is not available, I will bring in Lamin Koma to come and talk about the land allocation, and then we'll get Kemo back. Mr. Koma, are you there?
I lost. Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, I can hear you, Mr. Fati. Are you there? Mr. Fati, are you there? It seems I'm trying to, I'm lost. I lost. Mr. Fati, can you hear me
now?
Yes, I can. I can definitely hear you. Kemo, are you there? Okay, we are having issues today. Mr. Koma, welcome to the final take with me. We're trying to connect you, but it's difficult. Finally, I'm glad that you are here. That's Mr. Lamino Lankoma, former lands director and also a commissioner, in the North Bank region during the Jawara's PPP regime when I was a very young, or I was a kid. Mr. Koma, welcome to the final take with me, Senim Marena.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry the internet has not been working very well around here.
Yeah, I definitely understand. There is internet crisis, there is electricity crisis, all happening right in Banjul. But I'm glad to have you back on this show. So tell me, are there privileges accorded to certain portfolios or positions in the allocation of state land, Mr. Komma?
Well, it's quite a controversial issue, and especially now when it's so fluid, the policy environment is so fluid.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is maybe explain a little bit of what has been happening during my time.
Yes.
During my time, there was a land allocation board that would shortlist people that may be qualified for allocation.
Yes.
Now, there are certain policy guidelines like one man, one plot.
Yes.
That means you can't own more than one plot, whether you have the ability to develop and things like that.
Right.
So the board would consider that list and see who should be allocated or not. Now, but there is an application form, by the way, where you put in your passport size photograph. But these days, nobody knows exactly what's the policy environment. That's why I say it's so fluid. And that's why there's a lot of controversy, because it seems that people are just allocated as a matter of privilege or something like that.
But Mr. Koma, you said there was a land board. There's a board, responsible for state land allocation. Is this the same practice still now, if you know?
I'm not aware of it. I don't think so. That thing must have been scrapped a long time ago. Just like the Land Commission, which was in fact a constitutional provision, but it was not given any much regard as far as the government was concerned.
Okay. So, take us through what is the role of this land board during your time at the lands department as director?
Well, what they normally do, for example, first of all, there is a process of creating a layout.
Okay.
Where a certain area is identified, and then physical planning will decide to carve it up into plots.
Right.
Depending on the category of people they want to allocate in that area. For example, what you call medium, low, and high density properties. Now, the high density properties, for example, you will have in Canifing North area, if you know the area I'm talking about.
Yes, I live in Canifing Estate, yeah.
Exactly, just behind Mrs. Now. Then if you have the medium size, would be around the Fajara end.
Right.
Kairaba Avenue. Then you will have the low density around Cape Point and things like that. Now, if those areas are carved into, say, about 400-600 plots, then you have a lot of applications. Those applications are now put before the Land Allocation Board, and they have to go through it strenuously to see who may be qualified for allocation. Then we'll prepare a list for allocation and submit it to the Minister for approval. Then after it's approved, then the allocation letters are given out together with the plot numbers. That's when the qualified people would come around and pay for the lease, and the lease is processed.
So who can apply for land? Is it ordinary Gambians or senior government officials at the time?
Well, quite frankly, I think a lot of people are businessmen and senior government officials and other institutions like in the bank and things like that. They would mostly apply for the plot of land, because there is this caveat that you have to have the ability to be able to develop
it.
Yeah. So, and those days you would have government officials being allocated, given a building loan, and also those in other institutions are also given loans. So you'll find that if you go into the layout, you'll find most people living there are mainly from either institutions or government offices or civil servants.
During your time, a lot of government officials get land through state land allocation, giving back to estates like Bakote, Kanifing, and other places. How did government go about allocating land to these people in those estates? Are they free or they are paid?
Well, it's virtually free because the amount of money paid for the processing of the lease is very, very small. It's just a token fee. Basically, some are as little as $7, $25
Wow.
a year. Survey fee.
For an application or what?
Just for the land, because you pay for the allocation. Let's say during our time, you don't buy the allocation form.
Yeah.
Maybe now you may. It's free, and after it's approved, you have to pay for a survey, what they call a survey fee. It's a token sum, not much. Sometimes $25 is $15. Then they will calculate the land rent, then registration fee. I don't think the whole thing comes to more than $100 is during those days.
Wow. Now you cannot even buy a bread with $25. That was a very interesting moment during the regime of Sadauda Kairaba. Okay, now recently we have seen a lot of controversy surrounding state allocations of land. What's your take on this? Do you think that the way they are allocating land is in line with the due process, and as per the Land Act?
If you can be specific there, like which controversy exactly?
No, I mean, recently, President Barrow has grabbed a land in Fajara, a land that belonged to a former Chief Justice. But the government came out and said, he as a president, he has the right to be allocated a state land. And then, a few weeks again, another controversy, the leader of the biggest opposition party, UDP, was also allocated land, together with his daughter and his wife. So I'm asking whether these processes are justifiable as a former lands director with a lot of experience in state land issues.
I think directly it was illegal.
It was illegal.
Yes, it's as simple as that because
both land allocations, right?
Yeah, there is a schedule in the Lands Act. I think second schedule, Regulation 5.
Mm-hmm.
Each categorically states, amongst other things, that you can't be allocated land if at all you own one already.
Okay.
So even if it's not allocated to you by the state. So if you own land outside the layouts, more than one, you can't be allocated, you shouldn't be allocated. And the word used there is shall not be allocated, shall, which is very, very strong word legally.
Mm-hmm.
So he shouldn't be because in his declaration form, he has several plots, about 7 or so plots that he declared at IEC. So I can't see no reason why he should. And secondly, that place is not a layout. It's a government asset. It belongs to the people of the Gambia. It's, for people yet unborn. It's different when it's just like you say, I want to allocate state house. You can't do that.
Yeah.
That's why I found it funny when somebody said, where is the title deed? Where is the title deed for the Chief Justice? That was ridiculous because you don't have title deeds to. And the other thing is the nomenclature is just formal. It could be just a nomenclature that's attached to Chief Justice. It could be anybody else. It could be a second allocation, second vice president's place or something like that. So that doesn't matter. They just call it Chief Justice because that has been the tradition for a while, and it's been there for the Chief Justice. But it was completely illegal. Now, what I find funny is that the government came out, instead of talking about the legality or the process involved, they try to find some justification. Maybe something like a justification elsewhere. But he also did it. Where the vice president was there, he was allocated, and the family are allocated. Does that make it legal for him to to be allocated that land? It doesn't. Absolutely. And people should be frank enough to accept that. Unfortunately, we have a lot of spin here. Anytime some issue comes up, government tries to spin around something to deflect the conversation. And the Gambians should try to mature out of that. You know, it was illegal, it was illegal. Now, in the case of Dabo, he was allocated in the 80s. Together, as I said, you can see that people are living around there, either professional civil servants, or you have the Fafambais and all these lawyers around that area. So it was a legal allocation for him, and it was a layout. It's called the M section layout. They used to label
Fajara, right?
M section Fajara, F section Fajara, Kanifing. No, they used to label them. So that was indeed a layout. This one is not a layout. It belongs to the people of the Gambia. It's a different kettle of fish completely. So there are two issues. One about the illegality. One is that it's not part of a layout, so it shouldn't be allocated. Right. And two, the mere fact that he already owns more than two plots or properties, he shouldn't be allocated. It's as simple as that. And for somebody who's upholding the Constitution and the guardian of the Constitution to break the law, and people try to justify it by pointing at somebody else's allocation. And then the funniest thing, I've realized that I think Dabo made a challenge for them to bring out the allocation forms that they allege that the others did or something like that. And again, some people also try to attach some moral issue to the whole thing. No, it's not right for you to get a land and your daughter to get a land or something like that. I find that funny too, because that's not part of the policy, it's not part of the law. Morality sometimes is very subjective. Because if you say my daughter or my wife can't get it, how moral is it as far as the feminist is concerned? So that's why it's not.
But Mr. Koma, you made mention that if you have land previously, a state land, you cannot have another one. But in this case, both men have land for the second time. How do you justify that?
Could you say that again, because it's breaking?
I said in your presentation, you said that you cannot be granted state land twice. But in the case of Barrow and Dabo, they all got land for the second time. How do you justify this?
I'm not sure, but Dabo has a land for the second time. He said he hasn't. He has one. The only land that he has, people are accusing him of, is that the wife has and also the daughter has. Now, the moral question there is, did he use his influence? And again, I think I heard him say that they had their land after he was vice president. So the moral issue is, did he use his influence? And he said, no, because I was not in government. Of course, Barrow came out to say that Dabo called him to say that, please, for heaven's sake, don't make sure that my wife and daughter is allocated. They are allocated land. But that's another issue completely. What's important for me is, as far as that land at South Atlantic is concerned, is illegally allocated completely, and it's on record.
So you think the land should be taken back from President Barrow because the way and manner it was given is unconstitutional and is illegal?
Well, it all depends. Whatever the case, whether this government, another government, or a century later, it's illegal. It's as simple as that. So it's a big risk developing it. That's the whole point, because for him too, he's leaving it as some kind of inheritance for the kids and things like that, and they may find themselves into some kind of problems. And even if it was some retroactive kind of thing, it's just illegal. The way he did it is just illegal, and there's so much controversy and discussion about it. I don't know whether it's still going on with its development or not, but that's the danger about it. That's the risky part of it.
As a former lands director and someone who is very experienced when it comes to land issues in the Gambia has become a serious problem and a flashpoint for conflicts. How do we ensure that lands that is that Gambian own is is distributed evenly, and then how do we avert land problems in the country?
You see, land everywhere is a problem because of its scarcity. It's limited in size. It can't grow like any other thing. It's there. It's 11,000 or whatever square meters for the Gambia, so that you can't increase it.
So why do you think that countries put those kind of measures in place, not allowing foreigners to own land in their country?
You see, in any kind of governance system, leadership matters.
Yeah.
You have to have a good leader who thinks that the future or has a vision for the future. If that is not happening in Africa, that's our problem. We have all the resources, we have everything. And I keep telling people, now we have a good example next door, which is Senegal. We see how they move with their kind of leadership. Leadership matters. It's all about leadership. I don't think Jomai would have taken that property of South Atlantic. Even if it was put in on a silver platter, he wouldn't. So it's also a question of leadership. So that's the unfortunate thing about Africa.
Mr. Koma, tell us about there is a Land Act. And, despite having a law governing land distribution, we still have issues confronting land issues in the country. So do you think there is a need for review of our existing land policies and the Land Act, to bring it in line with best standards procedures now?
Yeah, that's long overdue, because even from the physical planning point of view, the last physical planning for Greater Banjul area was in the mid-80s, 1986 or 1980 something. And that's out of date. The standards applied, they are out of date. So what standards are they using? And with this fast urban rate growth, it's quite a problem. But again, institutionally, I think the lands department is also overwhelmed. I don't think they have the capacity, manpower in terms of logistics and things like that. That has to be done. Because during our time, I think people were trained to be qualified surveyors at the university level, qualified planners at the university level, land admits at the I'm not sure whether there are any anymore. So you need the professional and technical expertise to do that. So if we are administering land at a technical mode, at a lower technical middle level, or even lower, that's another problem. But we need to take land matters very seriously. Because the other aspect that is happening is between what they call state land and the customary tenure. I think there's a lot of confusion there. The government tends to think that they own the land by declaring state land. No, I think the ownership remains with the customary guys. The whole idea of having it declared as state land is to give them the administrative rights of the place, so that they can control development around that area. But they can't. But unfortunately, they just come and grab and allocate it to others without, the customary owners having much of a say in the whole process. That's another issue. I think it should be challenged. That's about democracy. Challenge these things in court. That's how you build institutions in democracies. Unfortunately, Gambians, that's why I like people like Madi, because now they are being very active in really challenging things.
Yeah, that's my next question. There has been a petition on land allocations to the National Assembly, like Madi and 3 other people sent a petition to the Parliament. What do you think about this petition, and what do you think will come out of it as former lands director? Do you think it's the right thing to do?
Well, with the record of the government, I'm not sure whether anything will come out of it that's substantive and satisfactory. But I know it's a good move. See, the point is, it's not a question of what you get at the end of the day.
It's just to try the system.
Exactly. Just put it so that it will be on record. And that's one of the problems with our National Assembly members too. They are not doing much because they say, if we bring it up, it wouldn't go anywhere. That's not the point. The point is you make this effort so that it will be on record, and after some time, it will be recognized so that action will be taken. And it's a good move. Let's know what's happening. Let's know what's happening to the land that's being allocated all over the place. Because there are so many rumors around. For all you know, we know about South Atlantic. There are so many government quarters all over the country. Are they being allocated? That's the question. Especially around that area. You know, whether there are some other places around that area, the back of South Atlantic being allocated, we don't know. Because somebody was saying that the temporary structures that are there, these tourist boys and vendors, they have been given notice to move out because it was given to the developer. So that's something else.
We are losing our lands to many foreigners. Even there was recently a petition by the Gambia Tourism Board that, you know, there are investors who were given lands without due process, and government is losing a lot of money from those land allocations, you know. So, you know, and the petition looked into how those lands were allocated, and they found the former minister of land, former minister of tourism, culpable of giving state land to investors that nobody knew anything about. Mr. Lamin Koma, before I finally let you go, how would effective resolution of land issues help to sustain peace and growth in the country to avoid conflict?
Land is an important factor in national development. As I said, its supply is fixed. You can't increase the supply of land. It's fixed. But the demand keeps increasing. That's why you need planning and thinking ahead. That's the problem, and that's not happening now. All the time, there's just this haphazard kind of approach to land allocation and land administration in general. So that's a problem. And one of the basis of development for any country is agriculture. Now, that sector is not being given the right priority if you go up country, and all the land is being given to one person. So the distribution of wealth, national wealth, is quite important because if there is no equity in the distribution of national wealth, then all the talk about GDP and things like that goes through the window, because you can have high GDP rates, but the distribution is not good. That's why they normally talk about inclusive growth. So land matters are extremely important, and they should think about it. It has caused a lot of chaos in the world, throughout the world. Historically, most of these issues start by land. You go to Ukraine, it's all about land. It's about land. But as I said, everything is leadership. Everything is leadership. If you have good leaders, they take care of things. They have a vision and know what to do. But if you don't, well, I'm afraid in Africa that's our problem. But as I said, now we have peace status now, which is in Senegal. So we see what happens. Every day we have some news from there. And there's a local saying from a friend of mine. He's a very interesting guy. He said, if you don't have a swimming pool, go stand by somebody's swimming pool. When he dips in, at least you'll have some droplets.
Very right, sir. Many thanks for joining us. That's Lamino Lankoma. Yes.
Thank you very much, MK. I really like it.
Yeah, many thanks for joining us. That's Mr. Lamino Lankoma, a former director of Lands Department during Jaura's time and a former commissioner, talking to us about the state land allocation processes and implications live from Banjul. Mr. Koma, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Yes. Moving on, we will connect back to Mr. Kemo Fati, an international specialist, to continue the discussion of Tangara. Mr. Fati, we just have only 5 minutes because we are about to draw the curtain on this conversation on Alkamba Times. Mr. Fati, if we are there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well again. Jenny, thank you so much.
Yes. Before I let you go, tell me, why do you think Tangara is demand for these top jobs, despite an outcry from various activists who claim that his hands are dirty because he served under a brutal dictator, Yaya Jammeh?
Well, Mr. Marin, again, I think Tangara's qualification is visible to all, both national level, regional level, and of course at international level, because he served in many roles that really qualifies him to be the next Secretary General of the Commonwealth. And given that, I believe that, he's one of the most qualified candidates, for this position. And I believe we need to understand one thing, and it's just that we have just a little time to discuss about this. And I don't want this show to be a name calling show, but I think the selective justice on Tangara for me is quite unfair. I think Gambians really had the opportunity to petition Tangara, and I think the petitioners themselves, got it all wrong. We witnessed what happened in Kenya very recently. I was living with a Kenyan in the same room. I saw Kenyan civil society, organizing events, engaging citizens 3 months before they are, make a demonstration against the president financial bill. It worked simply because everyone was involved. You understand? If you want to call for justice or you want to stand against issues that are very bad within the society, I think it's good to take a very good approach where you will get, everyone's view on board. But just look at it, Gambia, we have more than 600,000 active social media users. But petition was more than 7 days or 8 days. They couldn't even have 1,000 people who were signed. So that tells you that majority of Gambians don't associate themselves with it. So what? No, what's wrong with that? That's a very big question mark.
But Kemo, majority of Gambians are not also online, and then you cannot say that because they don't have the required number, that they don't have the required number, means that majority of online users are in support of Tangara. So it has to start from somewhere, So this group of people are calling out Tangara because they feel that he's not the right candidate, which I understand your point as somebody who also believes Tangara. That's why I invite you to this show today to discuss, to hear from you, so that I can give them an opportunity to also tell us why they want this man to be the Commonwealth SG.
They claim to represent Gambian people. You understand?
Yes.
So they claim to represent Gambian people, particularly young people. So I believe majority of those people should be part of the call too. So that is why I said the petitioners themselves failed in that approach. They should engage citizens, let them believe in what they say. Bring their evidences before us. Honestly speaking,
you think their approach to the whole issue is wrong because it was not consultative?
It wasn't consultative and it wasn't engaging at all. And for me, if Tangara was definitely culpable, to be honest with you, I will be the first person to append my signature on this. Honestly speaking, I don't support injustice and I will never do that. But for this issue, I see no reason why Tangara should not be our next, Commonwealth Secretary General, given the achievement he has done, both as a minister and of course representing Gambia at the United Nations level. And you need to understand one thing too. Every leader has a board. The chairperson of the Commonwealth, Paul, has his boards. A lot of people are calling him dictator, and sometimes in some interviews, he will happily call himself a dictator of development. You understand? There are wars going on in DRC stuff. So leadership is not easy, and every leader, must have a board. No one is perfect. But in the case of Commonwealth, I think our Tangara's position as a Minister of Foreign Affairs should be more important to us than even the position that he is running for. So to say that he's not qualified for that position for me is unjustifiable, and it will only create disunity among ourselves, and it will definitely tell us a lot about our small country at global stage. Right now, Gambia we should all rally behind him and make sure that he gets this position for the country.
So you are not concerned about all the allegations against him, to lead this global body, because yeah, go ahead.
No, I am concerned about them. But to be honest with you, I think all those arguments are based on moral grounds. There is no legal evidence, that tells us that this is what Tangara has done, despite all the all the laws that we have in our country as a public servant. So if I join the call, meaning I will just support the moral ground of the process, which I think is also important, and there are moral values that we should consider as a society. But in this case, and given how the entire process is, I think it will be very, very difficult to go ahead with the moral compass and our legal laws, honestly. Okay. So that is why I have that view, and I still stand with my view that all rally behind him and to support him and get.
Yeah, as a scholar of international affairs specialist, what are the chances of Tangara winning this Commonwealth SG position?
It's really going to be a very tight election for me. You can see the eastern part and the southern part of Africa. That is the SADC, rally behind the other candidate from their part. And then Gambia and West Africa has two candidates, Tangara and the one from Ghana. So it's really going to be difficult. But I think where Tangara could stand, very, very well, is that he has the ability to speak multiple languages. You could see, and that tells a lot about the Commonwealth Secretary General, because we have different countries too that are going. So and with the high level campaign that we also see from London and across the world for him, and I think Tangara might definitely stand a chance to win. But to be honest with you, it's really going to be a very, very tight race.
Okay. For those listening, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. That's precisely where we'll draw the curtain for this edition of the final take. Join us next week and do have a wonderful weekend. Talking to me is Mr. Kemo Fati, an international affairs specialist, talking to me live from Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. Many thanks, Kemo, for joining this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Seni.